Hey everyone, Kathy the Vegan Prepper here, and I have to clear some space in my freezer for my Azure order coming today. Vegan Prepper, Vegan Prepper. Right, so because I am dehydrating things out of the freezer, it couldn't be any easier. I don't have any prep work that I need to do. Nothing needs to happen to any of this stuff. It just basically needs to go onto the trays until it's dry, and then I will have plenty of dehydrated things to add to my little dehydrated food stash, and I'll also end up with space in my freezer for the things that are arriving today. So this is another one of those things that I do really love about dehydrating, is the ability to clear space in a freezer really fast, like if you need to, especially if you're already vegan or if your freezer is largely full of frozen produce like mine is. Oh, and that's lunch. All right, so this is what I have left of the frozen blueberries from the last batch I got from Azure Standard. I like to buy them in the 30-pound box, so I'm going to dehydrate all of these. Those are handy for mixes, blueberry pancakes and muffins and all of that stuff, oatmeals and things like that, so I'm going to have those on hand. There's a big bag of corn down here, which I'm also going to dehydrate. This I found from the very bottom of the freezer. This is from like 4 or 5 years ago. We had a huge surplus of garden greens. I mean, huge. Like, I wish I was doing YouTube when I was doing huge amounts of things from the garden. I looked way cooler than I look now. But this was basically the only way that I could think of to preserve it, was to juice it and then freeze the juice in cubes. And then eventually we had some bags that were just frozen solid cubes, and then we ended up putting those in our smoothies for kind of a really long time. This, I guess, is a bag that we missed, unfortunately, but like I said, it's like 4 or 5 years old, so my plan for this is to break it up a bit, put it around the base of a mango tree, and then hopefully if there is any nutrition left in that, it will just sort of melt into the ground. This is actually a big bag of cashews. But I'm not doing anything with the cashews, but I have several bags of oats in here as well, which I'm going to go ahead and pull out and just have to refill our, like, not our bucket, but the plastic container that I have in my pantry, which is what I use, or what I dip out of for everyday use, because we use oats so often. I have a smaller container of it in my pantry, as well as the giant bucket on the shelves where all of my most of my bulk goods are. But yeah, I'm going to pull those oats, and then those are what we're going to go through first before we hit what's left in the buckets. And hopefully clearing those things out, rearranging, and whatnot will give me enough space in my freezer for the things I have coming today. All right, so here's the blueberry situation for now. It looks like about 4 cups is what will fit comfortably on my Nesco dehydrator trays. And so it is maybe just a tiny bit overcrowded, but not too bad. So honestly, it probably could use one of the sheets that like kind of makes the hole smaller. At first, nothing's gonna fall through. Once it's dry, we're probably going to see things falling through. To me, that's not such a huge deal. I'm not gonna go and grab, I only have a few of the little things that you put on top anyway to sort of make the holes smaller. It looks like plastic canvas a little bit, you put it on top. So I'm just not going to bother with it right now. One of the things I do like to do though, and I thought I would mention, is I do like to measure how much I put. So I said 4 cups. That way when I'm taking everything off of the trays, I can measure how much I have once they're dry, and then I can kind of do the math to figure out, equivalence. And so that is kind of what I do also to try to not really waste a lot of what I'm dehydrating, because they do become so much dramatically smaller that you will tend to want to use, or you'll end up using way more than you necessarily need to in mixes or in recipes or whatever. So I like to make sure that I know how much I put on the tray, so that I know, like, when they're dried, what the amount I have dried is equal to in fresh. And then that way I can do that for my recipes, and also so I don't overuse my dehydrated goods and then go through them faster than I need to. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and keep filling these trays. And one thing I will also mention is when you dehydrate blueberries or like blackberries, really any frozen berries, Make sure that if you're going to dehydrate other things at the same time, that you put the berries on the bottom, because they will leak like crazy. This is going to be a real mess. I'm going to have to clean up a lot of blueberry juices off of these trays and off of the bottom here. So anyway, just a tip, because if you put something under, it'll get covered in the juices of the berries. All right, I got 7 total trays, and I will admit I didn't measure this top tray. I sort of just dumped what was left in the bag. Although now that I have spread it out, it really does seem like even the top tray is pretty much exactly 4 cups, because it feels and looks like all the rest of the trays. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get that into the dehydrator, and we'll have dried blueberries in probably a couple of days. All right, so starting in on the corn, I'm using my Excalibur dehydrator trays because they're already nice and small, like the little holes are small. So I don't have to worry about stuff falling through with these. And I'm doing about 4 cups per tray on this as well, which makes it nice and easy. One thing is these have kind of turned into a brick. And so I'm having to sort of break through them as I'm adding them to my trays. But yeah, that's basically kind of where I am. So I'm going to go ahead and get both of these bags of corn onto dehydrator trays, and then yeah, move on from there. Right, I got all 9 trays full with 4 cups of corn each. This one maybe had a tiny bit extra, but it also might not have, because there was so much ice in the bottom of one of the bags that I don't know, it's possible that some of that is ice and not corn. So this tray, it's going to be the top tray, and I will just know the top tray may be a little extra. But other than that, we got 4 cups pretty much exactly. And just also, I realized partway through that, yeah, working out of the side openings is really stupid. So I just cut the top off of the bags, and that sped the process along. Just, yeah, much better. So anyway, these are going to go into the dehydrator now, and we'll have dehydrated corn probably sometime tomorrow. I didn't show before, but there was also this random flat of like vegan quote unquote cheese enchiladas. They also have a lot of beans in them, and I had picked them up at Costco. They're okay. They're not my absolute favorite, but I had one of those kind of in my freezer, and I was like, oh yeah, I guess I could probably go ahead and cook those for lunch. And then that would help me get more stuff out of the freezer. So that's what I did, just with some leftover rice from the other night. And this is going to be lunch for me, my son, and my daughter, as well as some salad off the side. All right, stuff fit when I took it out of the boxes. So this is my big box of potatoes. This is my big box of blueberries. There was some drama with this. The frozen items were mixed in with the regular items. They are supposed to be packed separate in the truck, but they were mixed with the regular stuff. So things were kind of half melted when they came to me. I also have a 12-pack of Ezekiel tortillas. I'm not super thrilled about that. So I guess I'll be contacting Azure Standard tomorrow. I know they're closed right now, and just basically asking them like what happened, but also asking about the safety of it. Like food, if it was partially thawed and then refrozen, is that still safe? I really hope so. And the thing is, I know them. I know that if it's not okay, they will give me my money back, and I'm not like mad about that part. I'm mad about the stuff getting loaded in the wrong spot on the truck. But they will give me my money back. But I don't want my money back. I want my food, you know? That's what I want. So anyway, we will see how it goes. And I guess I will update you guys and let you know. All right, it's a few days later, and I wanted to hop on here to tell you guys I did call Azure about the situation with the frozen goods on the truck. And apparently I have been living in magical Azure truck unicorn land this whole time, that I have had my frozen things in a separate freezer compartment on the truck every single time I've ordered for ever that I've ever ordered. So apparently sometimes they don't have freezers on the truck, and then they do special packing where they put dry ice and they put like thermal blankets over the top. Or I can't remember what he called it, but it was some sort of special blanket to keep stuff frozen, so that it arrives still frozen. And then I was going to also mention that like almost instantaneously, he said, that the man I spoke to at Azure said, if I felt unsafe eating any of the food that he would give me my money back like right away. So I have already looked it up. Apparently, frozen fruit, if it's thawed, it can be refrozen and it's safe to eat. That's the one we were mainly concerned with because we eat those raw, like in our smoothies. The potatoes, not quite as much because we cook them. The tortillas, not quite as much because they are meant to be thawed out before we eat them, you know, and they were still cold. So it was mainly the blueberries, but they should be fine. It's more of a cosmetic issue than a safety issue for frozen fruit to thaw and then be refrozen. I don't think you'd want to do it multiple times, but it should be basically okay. I think honestly the big issue here was not so much Azure packing the truck, and now I feel really bad that I got so mad. It was just not what I was expecting. And it was more, gosh, I don't know, and I don't want to like place blame, but I am now going to be aware and probably asking at every single drop, is there frozen stuff in the main compartment of the truck? And then I will probably maybe step on some toes, not literally, but like I will probably start taking charge of the situation if frozen stuff is coming off of the truck in June and July and August here. I will be coordinating something and saying, hey, this is frozen. Do not let it touch the pavement. Whatever. You know, I will start taking charge of that. If nobody else thinks of these things and takes charge of it, I will do it. So anyway, I am really sweet, but I can be like, I can be bossy when I have to. My son is over here and he's like, yeah, she can be bossy, right? Yeah. But it's like, I try not to be, but it's more because I care. Like, I don't want somebody's food to get ruined. So anyway, all right, cool. That's it. So I have a different kid in the background of this video. All right, it is time to empty the dehydrators, and I'm doing it a little at a time. And so 1 4-cup tray of blueberries yields pretty much exactly 1/2 cup from both sides of the measuring cup, maybe a tiny bit more than 1/2 cup. So that makes the math super easy. I'm going to check each one of the other trays and see how close that measurement is before I decide for sure that that is how small the frozen blueberries will dehydrate down into. And this is a process that I repeat for each batch. I don't know. I don't remember if it stays the same. I haven't done blueberries in a really long time, so I'm going to write this down. Next time I do it, I'll do it again. If it stays the same, you know, over 2 or 3 batches, I will consider that the correct data. But, you know, even though I've done corn before, I'm going to measure it again, for instance. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and get to the rest of these trays now and see if that holds true for all the trays.
I think it is.
So just a quick note on my method. I'm using a little scraper and I go along the back of the tray first to get any bits of blueberry, because these are super soft and they tend to kind of come down and like wrap around the tray. So see right here, it makes it difficult to scrape from the front. So when you use the scraper on the back, Sage, stop please. When you use the scraper on the back, it helps dislodge all of that. And then you have very little to actually pick off of the tray when you turn it around. Okay, so here is the tray after running the scraper through. And then now what there is to pick off will come off very easily, because all that remains are the pieces that were just stuck to the top. And so it just makes it go a lot easier, a lot faster than trying to pick every single one off as it comes originally out of the tray. All right, this last one is a little more than 1/2 cup, but it makes sense because this is from the bottom, and this had all of the blueberries that were in the bottom of the dehydrator. So I'm still going to consider 4 cups to 1/2 cup as the ratio of frozen to dehydrated blueberries, especially because it helps keep the math super easy. Okay, even with all of the measuring, I somehow ended up with a little more than 4 cups. So I did drop this down to give room for shaking, but this is not quite full either. So I would estimate closer to 4 1/4 cups. But again, I'm just gonna keep the ratio at 4 cups of frozen blueberries equals 1/2 cup of dehydrated. Again, just to make the math a lot easier, that means that each cup turns into 2 tablespoons of dehydrated blueberries. And then that just makes it, like I said, super easy for making mixes. And this is not like chemistry. Like we don't have to be 100% exact with the ratios and the measurements and all of that. That's more for, like I've said, like preventing waste, because you can't really eyeball your dehydrated foods and estimate how much it is, because it's almost always more than you think it is. But anyway, all right, now time to move on to the corn. All right, I love both of my dehydrators for different reasons, but this has to be probably the main advantage of the Excalibur, at least in my mind, over the Nesco, is these flexible sheets. And then the fact that they're already so small to begin with. So you don't have to do anything extra to dehydrate smaller items. But for instance, things like the blueberries, even though it would have been a disaster inside, I do definitely appreciate too the Nesco. Like you saw a brief shot of my dehydrator, the bottom of it was completely covered in blueberry juice, but now it's just over there. And I'm going to stick it into my sink and wash that out. You can't really do that with the Excalibur. It would pool in the bottom. You can wipe it out with a cloth, of course, but I feel like the Nesco in general is a little easier to clean. However, these trays release things more easily. So with the blueberries, you can take something that's really stuck to this tray and kind of flex it, and then stuff just pops right off. You're not really needing to use like my scraper trick. But anyway, I'll go ahead and get this through. Corn just doesn't stick. This is going to be a lot easier than the blueberries, and we'll get those measured and figure out what the ratio was. This one again was about 4 cups per tray, frozen, although I believe this is the top one and it had a little bit extra on it. So I will go ahead and get those measured and figure out my ratio for my frozen corn to my dehydrated corn. All right, so this is measuring in at a little over a cup. So we're looking at about 9 ounces is what it looks like for the measurement for the 4 cups of corn to the dehydrated. All right, this is how much corn I got off of 9 trays, roughly 4 cups each. Each one of the trays ended up being in between or in the range of 9 to 10 ounces. So I have to decide if I feel like doing that math. And so I'm going to put on the screen exactly what I'm going to consider my ratio as far as like what is 1/2 cup of frozen corn equal to. And yeah, that'll be it, I think, for this video, emptying my freezer. Right, there you go, emptying out my freezer. I was able to free up quite a lot of space for bringing in the new stuff, and so that ended up working out really well. You know, a lot of my dehydrated food stash is actually doing this, freeing up space in my freezer, and then I have those things to use in future meals. I'm not always intending to dehydrate the things that I dehydrate, but I do it because it's handy. Another one I will mention really fast, and I guess I should probably do a video on this too if you really need to see it, is greens. Like we buy a lot of greens, and every now and then we just kind of don't get through them all. And so before they go bad, I can throw a huge bag of greens into the dehydrator and then have those for throwing into soups and things like that. So anyway, I really love dehydration, as you guys know. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know down below, and I will do my best to get back to you as soon as possible. Anyway, just thank you so much for watching. I appreciate every one of you. As always, I hope the rest of your day is good and your life stays wonderful. See you in the next one. Bye.